Oh, man. Mariah May, Blake Monroe just did Jordan Grace absolutely filthy. Jordan clearly just got her hair did. She's feeling all cute, so she posts up a pic with the new hairdo with the caption, "You can't put a pin back in the grenade." To which Mariah May claps back, "You also can't put the ramen noodles back in the packet." She just said, "Your hair looks like somebody slapped some ramen noodles on your dome piece." That's fucked up. That is so messed up. Now, some text to this, right? Some context behind this is that they're in a feud right now, a story, right? Blake just turned on Jordan at Great American Bash. So I'm sure there's a laugh with this, right? Like, there was probably a little text afterwards from Jordan over to Blake, like, really? Because you know how much time and effort goes into when the ladies go get their hair due, it's a whole event. So for Monroe, just absolutely rip it. Because now you can't unsee it, right? It does look like ramen noodles. Anyway, gotta start off the show with a little bit of fun. This is going to be a big amped up Thursday, July 17, 2025. We got a big show for you today, and I'm not talking about a Paul White. Well, no, we got a real big show, man. We're going to talk AEW Dynamite coming up. This was a big show for Dynamite. Again, not a Paul White. A big show. This was all the momentum from All In. They really had to find a way to carry that. They had to find a way to put together not just a decent or a good show. They have to put together one of their best shows in recent memory because you're going to have a lot of interest in this show. Will that translate in viewers? I'm sure they hope so for sure. But there's interest because All In was so good. So you really have to find a way to bring some of that magic to Wednesday night. Were they able to do that? Reports before we started recording this podcast, they weren't good. A lot of fans were not happy with last night's show. A lot of fans do not believe that magic was brought over, that momentum was carried on. BC was able to catch this show top to bottom, start to finish, beginning to end. I thought it was a decent show. I saw a lot of things that I liked. Hangman Page and that emotional promo that he gave to kick the night off. Cope did what he was supposed to do, set the table for FTR. Stokely eats a spear. We'll talk about it. But some of the smaller segments, Hurt Syndicate and their promo, Athena and Toni Storm. I didn't mind that segment at all. Liked it. I would have liked a couple more minutes of it. Watching the Young Bucks arrive in an Uber. If you've been following along what's been happening with the Bucks, well, I mean, that's hilarious. So there was that. The wrestling part of it, if you are there for the action and all the moves and all of that, AEW, that's never been a problem area for them. And they brought it last night. I didn't care about any of the matches because it was all a bunch of multi-person schmazes. I'm not a big fan of those. I can't invest. There was an 8-man tag. There was a 6-man tag main event for the dudes. There was the Fatal 4 for the ladies. They just put some money up for grabs. At least it's not for a future championship match, though. We see that too often. So I was actually pleasantly surprised that it was money and not a future title shot. Although they might say that it was as well. I don't know. But the matchups, take it or leave it, I could absolutely leave it. It wasn't anything that I needed to invest into. Kyle Fletcher in a one-on-one matchup didn't really do anything. Okada, I blinked. I had a sip of coffee. Okada's match was over, one-on-one. It was the matchups and the value in them, the care. I understand why a lot of fans might not have thought it was the best, but the presentation, the show in totality, I thought was decent, but that's the problem. Was decent enough for a show of this magnitude with the momentum that All In had and where the ratings have been and how AEW has kind of been down and out the last several months especially. This was their resurgence opportunity. A lot of fans were not happy about it. We'll go over it segment by segment, match by match, all of it. Backstage segments, Young Bucks arriving in Ubers, and you guys decide if this was a good enough show. I guess the numbers will tell us when they do come out. But we'll talk about the AEW Dynamite in totality. Speaking of numbers, we'll talk NXT's number. You're not going to believe how low this number is. And if you want to blame MLB's All Star Game, go ahead. It was their best rating that they've had in years, I believe. Good for them. I'm going to tell you the real reason why NXT pulled what they pulled. We're going to talk Pat McAfee because this is a discussion that has to be had because he's having the discussion again on his show, the Pat McAfee show on ESPN, and he's doubling down about his exhaustion and how he had to have this hiatus. And BC is now going to double down on what I feel needs to happen. It has to happen. And I feel that if this happens, everybody wins. I have the solution to the Pat McAfee problem. We'll talk about it. And the big discussion coming up in this very podcast, this very amped up show, we're going to talk WWE Unreal, the new show that exposes the business, right? It pulls back the curtain. And you have some fans and those in the industry that don't have a problem with this. Oh, it's fine. They had Beyond the Mat, the documentary many years ago. Remember that? The business was fine. And then you have fans that are going, Beyond the Mat was a one-time doc. And even then, you can't really get away from that doc, right? You kept a lot of that stuck with you. So you can only have that once in a blue moon. You can't have a whole series that exposes the company, which then exposes the industry. Let alone, they're already talking about a season 2. You can't expose all the magic tricks and expect everybody to keep showing up to the magic shows. I understand where they're coming from for sure. I have a bold statement that I'm going to make about this WWE Unreal show, and then it leads to a grander conversation. Is Hunter Hearst Helmsley destroying professional wrestling? WWE, which in turn helps put the dent and more destruction into pro wrestling in totality. Is Hunter Hearst Helmsley consciously or subconsciously, deliberately or just stupidly destroying professional wrestling? These are talks that have to be had. We're going to have them. It's amped up Thursday, July 17, 2025. And I think there's no better time to kick it off than right now. 44 dive. The cameras are rolling. The mic is amped up. Basie's amped up. The unit showed up to be amped up. Let's go. I had several coffees already, as you can tell. I'm going to get a big swig. We're going to jump into the Pat McAfee talk, if you don't mind. With Pat McAfee, it's one of those things, man, and I'm a big supporter of Pat, and I mean, like, when I'm in the office studio and I don't have time to watch the Pat McAfee show, I will at least play it so it's getting viewership and that the ads are running on his show, so that helps out the show tremendously. So that's what I mean when I say I support. But the WWE and Pat McAfee experiment, on Raw anyway, it's a complete bust. It's a fail. I told you from the jump it would be a fail. Pat McAfee has all these other things he's involved in, and I'm talking big money endeavors. No pun intended. Big money projects, way bigger deals. So WWE was never a priority. WWE was like the side hobby. It's the side chick, right? He has all these other marriages going on, and then WWE is the side chick. And like any side chick, they only get the attention when the Pat McAfees of the situation give that attention. But if the wifey is calling, that's where they need to be. And that's where Pat McAfee will go. College Game Day will get that. His show will get that. His big investments will get the time before WWE. That we've seen time and time again. We have seen Pat take already about 9 hiatuses. And I'm talking about before being, quote, exhausted. So that's the first big issue here, is that it doesn't work schedule-wise. You can't just have Pat keep showing up whenever he's available and keep kicking people like Corey Graves to the curb when he's putting in all the actual work. He's actually following the product. But go to NXT or just go home because Pat's coming in for the next month or two. And then you have to fill in Pat on everything that he should already know. And WWE is more than fine with being the side chick because it's a celebrity or it's a big name and they love that, right? They love that. They will absolutely be the side chick to the Tyrese Halliburtons and the Jelly Rolls and the Pat McAfees of the world. They don't mind at all. As long as there's a name outside the WWE universe that's involved with them. And Michael Cole would become his best friend, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley will be at all the Pacer games with Pat McAfee and checking out his good buddy Halliburton. Could you imagine if Hunter Hearst Helmsley spent the amount of time and attention on his own talent than he does with the celebrities? So they're more than fine with Pat McAfee in this wild schedule where he is missing one Raw after the other. And I'm talking about before this recent hiatus. They're more than okay with that schedule. Because as long as it's Pat McAfee, and if you're telling me that he truly is bringing in outside eyeballs and making this so mainstream and it's really making an effect, then I see the business side of it. But the numbers are going backwards every Monday. And that's been that way for months, and that's while Pat McAfee was on commentary. I'm not blaming Pat solely on that, but Pat's not bringing in more eyeballs for sure. So at what point do you have to say this is a detriment and Corey Graves is best suited for the job? Because the Michael Cole and Pat McAfee experiment together, that's ran its course. For the first few months, it was funny, right? It's like a couple of high school buddies and they're joking throughout the whole show. But at some point, you want the wrestlers to get some respect. And while they're wrestling, can you just stop laughing and doing inside jokes and just pay attention and call the match? It started not being funny after a while. And then what McAfee is there for, just the sound bites. Because again, McAfee has admitted time and time again, and I salute him for this, for the honesty. He says, I don't follow the product. Michael Cole has to fill me in on everything, and then I just give my sound bites, right? One big son of a bitch. He probably hated seeing Braun Strowman go, because that's one of his main sound bites. But he's supposed to jump up on the commentary table, do the yeeting and all that stuff. Be the funny guy and do your yelling and your sound bites and bring the energy. That's what Pat's supposed to do. But it came a time where even that was getting old. And the shtick was up, and it started being the same things every Monday night. And then you get to the recent hiatus where Pat says he doubled down on his recent show, talking about his hiatus. And I quote, he's exhausted. He says, I hit the wall. He says, I just can't do it. These are quotes. Exhausted. He hit a wall. He just can't do it. And he was asking people, like, have you ever felt this? Because he always thought of himself, these are quotes. He always thought of himself as a high energy guy who never needed much sleep and could always get through everything. And he said eventually he thought it would catch up, but not like this, where he'd hit a wall like that. And I believe every word he's saying, by the way. That's from the heart, and we wish him the best. And he looks fine, by the way. He's sporting the glasses. He's doing his show in the sun right now. I don't even know where they are, but it looks beautiful wherever he's doing his show. Pat's fine. Pat's rocking. But when he's exhausted and he's hitting the wall, what's the first thing to go? The side chick. WWE, and that's what happened. And then they had to pluck Corey Graves, who was in the doghouse, by the way, because he finally had enough. He was pissed off, and I don't blame him. He got booted again for the 18th time, and he finally said, imagine being, dedicating yourself to your job, being pretty good at it, and being told you're not famous enough. And he put that on social, and he got in trouble for that. Helmsley did not like that. Cole probably didn't like it. And they put him in the doghouse, and they put him down in NXT with 586,000 viewership. We'll talk about that. But they put him in the doghouse. But if Pat's not Corey, we're calling you back in now. You're out of the doghouse because Pat McAfee had a breakdown. Pat McAfee hit a wall. At what point, whether you like Corey Graves or not, I hear you. But I mean, the dedication this guy brings and the knowledge that he does bring and the effort that he puts out, all of the work that he puts in, how can you keep just kicking him? How can he become your side chick? Pat McAfee's treating WWE as a side chick. WWE's treating Corey Graves as the side chick. Corey Graves, man, he's more than earned that Raw spot. And now you have a guy who's literally telling you it was a quote of his own. I can't do it. Now, it doesn't matter if he means just right now or later. His responsibilities won't lessen, and he's got the fam at home too, which is going to take more of the time than anything, on top of all the business endeavors and the college game days and all of that. His show, at least 5 days a week. You think that's going to lighten up? No. So when's the next wall going to hit? When's the next exhaustion spell going to hit? Because WWE can't be playing this game nonstop. I have the solution for everybody that supports and likes Pat like BC, and for everyone that supports and likes WWE and wants to see it succeed and wants to have a good commentary team that knows what they're talking about and can actually follow the product and talk about it. I have a solution. Pat McAfee shows up every PLE. or even if it's every other. Sometimes there's 2 PLEs a month. I understand if you don't want him there twice. Once a month, bring in Pat when he can. If he misses a PLE, he misses a PLE. You catch him once every couple or 3 months. And then it remains special. And then he's more privy to everything. You can keep him up on the loop, especially the week leading into the event, so he's more prepped, more knowledgeable on everybody, knows how to pronounce their names. He's more than just a soundbite, maybe. He's more refreshed. He knows that after that event, he's getting out of there, and the fans get to hear some Pat McAfee commentary. Pat's not exhausted. He's on WWE. Everybody wins. He cannot do Raw every Monday, guys. Even if he didn't hit a wall and was exhausted, he's got to do 9 hiatuses a year because of other endeavors, especially College Game Day. That's not the best way to do business, man. Just put him on the PLEs. Once in a blue moon, if you want to make it a 3-man booth and bring him out for a Raw. Hey, cool. But let's just do that permanently and just put Corey Graves in that seat. Deal? You guys know that sounds like a pretty damn good deal because this Pat McAfee experiment on Raw, it ran its course. I won't say failed, because there was times where it was fun. But it's ran its course. You can't do that with somebody who even admits they don't follow the product. And it started to, you could tell, you could tell he was exhausted. You could literally see that he was exhausted, not just recently, go back 2 months ago. He's exhausted. You can tell he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. So he's just trying to shout sound bites. You can tell, unfortunately, and this is the show itself, how bad Raw is. But you can tell it's like the last place he wants to be. It's probably not a guy you want to be on camera several times during your show because he's on commentary. How about PLEs? Everybody wins. I like that idea. Well, it's my idea. Do that, WWE. Do that. And everybody, get some respect for yourself. Stop being the damn side chick. Salute. Let's move on. I don't know. The women's division has always been like the best part of NXT. And even that can't really save this show these days. NXT I can't even say it's a shell of what it once was. I don't know what this NXT is. I really don't. I'll give you the number real quick, and then we'll talk about what the happened to NXT. NXT pulled a 586,000 viewership this week. 586,000. That's down 109,000 viewers. 109,000 from 695 last week. 586. You can blame this on the MLB All Star Game. Of course you can. It's one of the highest, maybe the highest rated MLB All Star Game. That's not why they pulled a 586 number. You want to know the real deal is that nobody gives a shit about LFG or Evolve. And if we're really honest, which is what we should be, the TNA partnership honeymoon is over. Instead of focusing on all of the talent that NXT has, and we just went over some names that it just doesn't feel like the focus is on them, even though they are legit stars, we're going to bring in LFG, which I believe is that little reality show. It's just a reality show, like a different version of like a Tough Enough. And a couple people have already won their first season, and they're already on NXT television. And then you bring in Evolve, which is like a division within WWE. I couldn't even tell you. I don't even care, because whenever I see the talent on NXT, it's an instant channel changer. The TNA partnership, I just feel it's run its course. It's supposed to be more fun. I understand seeing Santino, but the Trick Williams winning their title, the numbers are telling you that nobody's going over to TNA to watch Trick Williams. And as much as we can believe in Joe Hendry, nobody is tuning into NXT to watch the TNA wrestlers come over. There's a lot of intertwining right now with Slammiversary coming up, and they pulled a 586. I don't blame anybody that went and watched baseball over this. Nobody. If your option is baseball or this, you're going to baseball. You'll go to pickleball. You'll go to skee ball. Anything over this, man. There was over the last couple of weeks, there were several times where I had a few minutes to check out NXT, and I was just repulsed by it. It's an instant channel changer. There's a lot of commercials during the All Star Game. There's a lot of dull points during the All Star Game. You could easily go to NXT, have that last button ready, boom, right over to NXT, and that number would be above it, 586. What that number tells me is that not only did people watch the baseball, they had no intention or no reason to switch over to NXT. Maybe they did a first couple of times in the first 20, 25, and then they were just like, nope, nothing else to see. This is bad. NXT is lost, man. LFG, Evolve, the TNA partnership. I don't even recognize this. NXT goes through too many transformations. And you say, well, BC, that's developmental. That's what it does. What's developmental? Joe Hendry is not a rookie. This is not developmental. TNA wrestlers are not developmental. That is a legit company with a partnership with NXT. That's not developmental. Trick Williams has been doing this not for months, but for years now. Trick is not a developmental talent. He's just stuck there because they don't have anything on the main roster. Jordan Grace is not a developmental talent. Yes, you breed in some of the young wrestlers, and that's where you would bring in people of LFG and Evolve, but there's ways to do it. All at once, clearly, is not the way to do it. If you weren't a primetime show, I understand, but you are. You are a primetime show on Tuesday nights. I just don't know what they're just trying to get too cute right now and trying to get too many young wrestlers in there that just don't have charisma or personality yet. Let them build that off of TV. You got a couple of dudes that just won a reality series. Now they're wrestling. They're mean mugging and now they're pro wrestler. They're playing pro wrestlers. That's what it looks like. They're playing pro wrestler. They're not pro wrestlers yet because you won a television show. Took Miz years before even the talent gave him any respect. When he won, what was that? Tough Enough? He was on the MTV reality series, man. Real World, Road Rules Challenge. Took him years before any. To this day, a lot of people don't take Miz seriously and don't give him that respect. You got people winning reality shows and they're just on the television. They're winning matchups. One of them, I believe, was on the pay-per-view this past Great American Bash. Trevor something, I believe. I don't even know. Evolve. They're bringing all these kids from Evolve. There's a tag team, and I won't even try. I would butcher it. I don't know their name. I don't care about the name. There's a tag team that shows up in NXT. Maybe they're from Evolve. They just look like they're from like Bayside High. Remember Saved by the Bell and the high school? They look like they're 18 tops. 18, 19. They're small. What is this? You have a dude that is literally a bootleg version of Randy Orton, and they use that as the gimmick. They call him like Baby Orton. Or something like, I'm not joking, man. Little Orton, Baby Orton. His name is Miles Bourne. You check this guy, down to the tape, the tights, the head shaved, all of it is just, it's a bootleg Randy Orton. But the problem is, it's worse than like the dollar store version. He's so smaller. There's a photo with him and Orton. He's so tiny compared to Orton, and he's just too baby-faced, and it just doesn't. And this is who they're trying. This guy had a title shot. I think it was at Battleground. Was that against Oba Femi? I believe. I think it was Oba Femi and Miles. Baby Randy. Too much. And what you did is they lost the identity of what NXT was. I'm not even talking black and gold. The recent NXT had a real chance. It was beating AEW by big margins. AEW has closed that gap. I'm telling you right now. In fact, if you go on the last, I don't have this week's AEW Dynamite number yet. We are recording this early morning after Dynamite. But the last Dynamite number we have, even if you don't add in the max numbers, they beat NXT's 586. Because then it says AEW pulled 617. So even without the baseball game, what are you guys giving NXT? Are you saying they would have had 50,000 more viewers maybe? So that brings them to 9606, 1626. So 636 sound fair? Because again, last week they only pulled 690 some odd. So you can't give them more than that because the show, from what I'm hearing, was not good anyway. So I'm not giving you the 690 they got last week. So I'd give you what? 630, 640 without the baseball game. That's horrendous. And if you add in the max numbers on top of the 617, then AEW would have beaten them. And AEW might, in fact, beat the 586 from this week. We still are waiting on the AEW number. Something tells me it probably beat 586. Baseball game or not, look at the product first. Are they putting the best product out? If they were doing that, baseball, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's football. Your product will pull in 586 plus, more than 586, not 586 flat. You'll be over 6. Come on, 650. If you're putting together a good product, I hope you're getting $750,000. You're a pro wrestling show on primetime. You're nowhere near $750,000. We're just going to play baseball? Again, if NXT was like rocking right now and that number came out, and I saw the baseball MLB number, the best number that they pulled in years, I could understand. But because the product is so bad, no, I'm just not. I'm not buying it. They have to get their shit together. They're trying to get too cute. They're trying to get too many young wrestlers in, and where are they all going? That's the problem. The main roster already has 150 people on it. They're stacked. They can't take anybody else. NXT was already stacked. They shouldn't be taking anybody else. More. And then you hear about a bunch of releases from people that never even really got a chance or weren't used properly because there was no focus on them. We're too busy trying to bring in new people. Hey, he's 18, he's 19, 20, yeah. He looks like Randy Orton. Bring him in. Hey, they won the reality series. Bring them in. You don't want to try to utilize Shotzi first? Maybe give Sonya Deville a storyline? Maybe capitalize on some of the momentum from the Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, little Wreck-It Ralph feud that they had. Maybe no? Don't want to do any of that. You just want to get rid of R-Truth? You just put him in nothing but copy. You don't want to try something new with R-Truth? You just want to bring him, okay, Evolve? There's no focus. It's more. They want their WWE logo to be on all the schools these days. So there's no independent schools. And if you are independent and you don't have a WWE logo, you're an outcast. Because what student wants to go there? You're not WWE affiliated. So they want to monopolize the industry. What's the point? So you're taking away larger than life wrestlers, man, because you're one big school system. Treating this like it's the actual NFL, where you have like a system. So every wrestler is just like off the assembly line. Everybody looks the same, acts the same, speaks the same. They're all coming from the WWE schools. No, I miss the day when you see somebody pop up like Earthquake, John Tenta. Yeah, he probably wasn't going to a WWE affiliated school. Give me Giant Gonzalez any day. Maybe not in the weird gimmick that he had with the remember he was like a what was he? He was like a Loch Ness monster or something. Giant Gonzalez. He took on Undertaker at WrestleMania 9, I believe. But I'll take those guys, man. Give me Sid Justice. Give me Big Daddy Cool Diesel, man. Big Kev. I just want people that look the part. Even Goldberg, man. Football player, didn't work out, got intensity. Bring him in there. Give me that energy. But today, it's just everybody's coming from these schools. We want more schools. We want more of the kids. And that's what they're fucking kids. These are just, they're playing wrestler. They're playing wrestler. I'm not getting a sense that they're pro wrestlers. They don't look the part. They don't feel like it. It's like they don't believe in their own shit. But they probably practice a bunch of moves on the trampoline growing up. before dinner time, and they want to be pro. Watch the 460 inverted moonsault I can do. I'm going to go to wrestling school, be a WWE superstar. No, that's not what got most of us into pro wrestling, man. It's the larger-than-life characters. You guys know that. Back in the day, it was the Hogans, the Savages, the Warriors, Undertaker, Steve Austin's, Rocks. Come on, man. Where the fuck is that today? Who? Is Miles Bourne bringing you there? Yeah? Trevor from LFG? Got some of the Evolve talent coming in? This conversation went longer than it is. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because they don't understand. Like, make what you have special. They're just running this like it's an actual sport. It's entertainment, man. You're literally making a show, pulling back the curtain, exposing it all. So which is it? You want to make it more of a sport, but you want to expose it fully to show how entertaining it is. Which is it? We got to move on. No choice, man. There's a lot of... Let's stick with that. Let's stick with Unreal. Let me get a swig of coffee, and we're going to talk about this new Unreal show. Completely exposing the... It's not just pulling back the curtain. It's burning the curtain and exposing the whole damn show. So Hunter Helmsley wants to be the star of it all still, even though his wrestling days are done. It is pretty clear he wants to play the role of Vince McMahon, but he doesn't want to do Vince McMahon shit behind the scenes. He doesn't want to lock himself into the office 25 hours out of a 24-hour day, do your Steiner math, because that's what Vince would do. Vince didn't want his name in any credits. He didn't want to do any podcast, even though podcasts weren't huge back then, but he didn't want to do a bunch of interviews. He didn't want to do them. He didn't want to be the star of the show, right? The whole Mr. McMahon thing came because it was survival at that point. WCW was whooping that ass. McMahon realized he's one of their biggest characters if he rolls with it, and he did. But McMahon never actually wanted the credit. I tell this story often for my veteran subscribers, growing up, you did not know, if you were a kid anyway, you did not know Vince McMahon was the owner of the company. You didn't know. You thought he was just the commentator guy. He was just a commentator on a show called Superstars of Wrestling. This was before Monday Night Raw was even a thing. Yeah, I'm taking you way back, guys. We grew up with no Monday night anything. We were growing up, you had to watch wrestling on a Saturday, early morning or afternoon, or like 11 a.m. or 12 noon, sometimes 1 p.m. I guess it was, depending on where you were, it was from 11 a.m. to like 2 or 3. And then there was Wrestling Challenge after that. I think that was maybe later on a Saturday afternoon or Sundays. But that's what we started out with. And then came Primetime Wrestling, this kind of Tuesday night show. And later on, much later on, maybe early 90s, Raw finally came on. Years after that, SmackDown. But I tell that story that, like, Vince, he didn't want it known. Like, he was just a broadcaster, and that's all that that's what you knew. But with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, it's pretty clear how he carries himself, how he conducts himself. He wants to be the star of the show. He loves walking around backstage as Vince McMahon. Like, he's the guy. And every show has to end. I mean, if you have a big cliffhanger and you're in the moment, no, pro wrestling, WWE does not have a lot of cliffhangers. They're not creative enough to give you a cliffhanger. So the show just ends as weak as possible. But if you did have a cliffhanger, could you imagine you're in the moment? It's this huge cliffhanger. We're fading to black so you can digest what you're witnessing, and all of a sudden credits pop up. Produced by Paul Levesque McMahon and Leaf. Why do we need to know? Why does it have to be so big? Can't you have it like a little bit? It takes you right out of the moment. But he wants you to know that this is he produced this. This is Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque McMahon's production. He has to do all the podcasts. You have more talent today than ever before. This roster it's overfilled. And yet the person that does the most podcasts, the most interviews is Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Where are you finding that time if you're supposed to be the chief of content, the head of talent, and the lead of creative? Because that's what he is. He's all of those things. He's got his hand in all the cookie jars, but where's he finding any time to do it? By the way, with the family life afterwards, which is that's his prime focus. That takes more time than anything. And then you watch the product and it's pretty clear, oh, he's not dedicating any time to it. In fact, if he is talking creative, it's only to film a show called Unreal on Netflix. That's a real story, man. Next week, this show comes out. Unreal, or the end of July. Is that next? It's coming up, yeah. It's called Unreal, and it just pulls back the curtain, and Hunter Helmsley is going to take you inside the writer's room, and he's going to take you behind the scenes, and how he talks to the wrestlers, and he turns into Papa H, and he pulls people aside that are, they don't have a lot of self-esteem or confidence, or they're easy to buy into somebody like Helmsley's bullshit. You probably won't be seeing a lot of Papa H speeches with LA Knight, because LA Knight will be seeing right through him like Bret Hart looks at Hunter Helmsley. Get out of here, you douche. Get out of here, you fool, you fraud. That's how Bret Hart and LA Knight and even CM Punk, if he's being honest, but he's trying to be the good soldier these days. But they see right through the charade and the fraud and the facade. But if you can pull people over that don't, especially he loves talking to the women because he can be Papa H to the ladies. He'll pull over Jey Uso, right? Jey Uso, he's never had single success. Yeah, we're going to put the rocket on you, kid. We're going to put the whole rocket on you. So he's filming a show so he can be the star. So at a time where ratings are going backwards at an alarming rate, the answer to Helmsley is, what if we do a show exposing the business and I'll be the star of it? The show will circle around me. So it's not enough that at the end of every Raw, SmackDown event, every event, it's my name that pops up. I run this. Paul Levesque McMahon, it says right there, produced by. But let's also have a show dedicated to me and all of my creative. So the show that you're about to watch on Netflix, it's a facade. There's a hilarious part in the trailer, one of the new trailers, where they show the whole group is in there. Writers, agents. I think I see Bobby Roode, bottom left on a lot of the images. And it's writers, it's agents, and Helmsley's at the head of the table like he's the Don. And there's several massive writing boards. Those like marker boards. And it's got writing nonstop. You would think this is the most creative thing you've ever seen. This is the most creative, just conceptualized room you've ever been in. They tried to make it like a real war room, it's called. And all this creative process is flowing. I mean, that's how they tried to make it. Massive boards with all of this writing. You're thinking, damn, there's so much creative that goes into this. It's all a facade. When you watch the fucking shows, where's all of this creative that's on the boards? What do you want? You're watching a match to get us to a match, this fatal four-way. And when the winner is going to take on the United States champion. They'll get a championship match. Coming up over here, it's a gauntlet match. The winner of that will take on a world champion in the future. We're going to have a battle royal. The winner of that will take on a future world champion. Future. A match to get to a match. That's Raw and SmackDown these days. Fatal fours, triple threats, battle royals, mini tournaments, full tournaments to get you to another match. And that's the story. There's no stories. So what's the boards all about? There's no stories. They're like, we're gonna put a fatal four-way, and then whoever wins that is gonna take on the champion. And then so the next 2 weeks you'll go out and you'll have promos. You'll speak to each other. And promos, face-to-face promos. I'm going to beat you. No, I'm going to get the title. It was hilarious. All these massive boards with all of this writing and all of these minds are coming together to collaborate on some uber creative. And then you think about the Raws and SmackDowns that we get. What? This is a facade. And that's what he's spending his time on. When he is doing anything creative, it's just to put on a show. There's 6 to 8 cameras on this guy during the show. 6 to 8 at any given moment. You think you're getting the real Hunter Helmsley creatively? You think he's actually thinking this through on a real thought-provoking way? Of course not. The cameras are rolling. And when you get somebody with an ego like Hunter Hearst Helmsley and the cameras are rolling, oh boy. Buckle up, you're going down Ego Boulevard. So let's get to the real. That's the first half of it. This is Helmsley in his element. He just wants to be the star of the show. And that's why I say he should be removed from this position. Keep him on the show if you want. Make him a general manager. Make him put him as the leader of a heel faction. The Authority 2.0. Whatever you got to do. That's cool. If he loves being on camera, put him on. If you want to give him a raise and give him an office job, whatever you got to do. But he should not be chief of content, talent, and creative because he sucks at it. And he doesn't devote the necessary time to it. Unless there's cameras on him. But let's talk about the discussion at hand. Is this detrimental for professional wrestling? WWE, but pro wrestling at large? Or is this no harm, no foul? It's all right, BC. Some fans say, remember Beyond the Mat? I do. I absolutely do. That's not a good thing. This is one of those scenarios where once you see how the hot dog is made, right? The old saying is once you see how the sausage is made, right? I don't want to know how the sausage is made because if you know, it's not good. But let's put it more into what's even more eaten more by most. Hot dogs, right? Once you see how a hot dog is made, you can never get that out of your mindset. Once you see how the hot dog is made, you never look at the hot dog the same way. You may eat it again, but you'll never look at it the same. You'll always, I'm being serious. If you ever go to a sausage factory, a hot dog factory, I refuse because I've heard enough stories. I've heard enough stories from people that have went to these places as part of a tour, and they were never the same. Most of them never eat another sausage or hot dog. And I love hot dogs, man. There's no way, man. It doesn't have to be the 4th of July. It's not like the Nathan's guy that can eat 1,016 in an hour or whatever he can do. What's his name? Joey Chestnuts? Salute. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't even care if they dunk they dunk it in water because you have to do the bun too. It's not just the hot dog, I think, correct? I think they have to do the bun. Anyway, what are we talking hot dogs? The point is, when you see how it's made, you can never go back. You'll always remember that. And it's a detriment to hot dogs. Pro wrestling, once you see how it is made, even if you come back, you can never get that out of your mindset. I will never. You want to talk Beyond the Mat? I will never get out of my dome piece. Darren Drozdov. He was a wrestler from the past. Darren Drozdov. And his gimmick was he could puke on demand. And he was in Vince's office. And Vince is like, come on, you gotta puke. And he's making Drozdov puke in a bucket. And that was going to be part of his gimmick. And I'll just never forget all of that because then when you see Droz after that, it's like that's what I immediately think of. That's what I go to. It's not Droz's performances. And unfortunately, by the way, Droz's career got cut short. He was in a match, I believe, with D'Lo Brown. And I don't want to get into that. That's one of those. Yeah, that situation that sucks beyond belief. But his career did get cut short. But when you that's one example of when you think of a certain person or situation or event, I shouldn't be thinking about the behind the scenes of it. And that's what Beyond the Mat really did. Paul Heyman took you behind ECW scenes. Yeah, it's entertaining on one hand, no question, but it's not something you can do often. And when you do it, it has to be at the right time. Beyond the Mat, at least, was at the right time. It was a one and done, and that's it. Tough Enough, Total Divas, all these other shows, they expose the business absolutely, but only to a degree. And thankfully, not enough viewers tuned into it. A lot of people didn't want to see the business exposed like that via those shows. So those were kind of no harm, no foul. Beyond the Mat was the one that really kind of took you behind and into Vince's office and behind the scenes with Paul Heyman. And then there was the things that really did not affect the business and were very interesting, like Jake Roberts' story and facing his demons. That was also in there. But there were some scenes where like Mick Foley and The Rock were planning out their spots. And that's what I mean. When I think Mick Foley and The Rock, I immediately just go back to Beyond the Mat. I go back to that documentary before I even go to the matches themselves, the I Quit match and all the other matches they had, the halftime heat. I think that was like in the middle of the Super Bowl at halftime. They had a like no holds barred, falls count anywhere. It was called, what was it? Halftime heat. And it was Rock and Mankind. But my point is, man, that, you know, they were letting a lot of that. I mean, they were showing you, Rock was talking like how he's going to set things up. And again, on one hand, it's entertaining and it's like, hey, this is cool, man. Like, are we supposed to be viewing this? You know, it's like, you feel like you're watching something you shouldn't, and it's entertaining. It's so interesting. But we now know the long-term effect of it is you can't really get a lot of that out of your dome piece now. So was it really the best for the industry? Of course not. This is going to take that to a whole nother level. Beyond the mat, no harm, no foul. It's one and done. It did some damage. Yes, it did. But it was entertaining. It was eye-opening. Okay. Now you have a show that is willing to pimp out pro wrestling. And Hunter Hearst Helmsley is the one who's holding the door wide open. He's removing the door. He's taking the door right off. Come on, everybody. This is how the sausage is made. This is how we distribute the hot dogs. What do you don't mean you don't like these parts of the pig? You love hot dogs. So yes, on one hand, I'm sure it's going to be eye-opening and even maybe entertaining and like, whoa, so that's... But on the other hand, don't forget, this is absolutely a detriment to pro wrestling. And I will take this a step further because wrestling is hurting right now. Ratings, numbers, merchandise, you name it. They can't sell out consistently like they were even last year, which that was running on fumes, by the way. So I told you this was going to happen. They were going to run into situations where they can't sell out arenas. So even AEW is going to have to go to smaller venues. WWE cannot claim sellouts anymore. Now they have to go to, we got a packed house. Not a sellout. I told you this was going to end. It's going to get worse next year and next year because as the product gets worse and worse, and the parents that have the kids, there's going to be less kids going, can we go? But the parents are going to go, no, we already maxed out the credit cards. It's not worth it anymore. So at a time where wrestling really needs the focus to be put on the product itself, instead, they're going to expose it even more. They're going to give you a show. So I will go as far as to say that if they don't get the product itself back on track, this is not just a detriment. WWE Unreal is not going to be just a detriment to pro wrestling. It'll be its demise. What you're seeing now, you have what's left is the actual fanatics of it. They're showing up to the arenas. It's the kids dragging out the parents or the adults that are still just like very much into the action part and they just want to participate and yell, this is awesome, and do all the chants and the sing-alongs and the yeeting. You are down to just that. That niche, you are down. The casuals are pretty much gone. Viewership is telling us that. And I used to say casuals will never fully go away. WrestleMania, SummerSlam, they'll always come back, see if there's anything worth watching or sticking around for. But no, the numbers are showing you it doesn't matter if it's Mania, SummerSlam, post shows to a PLE, pre-shows, or go-home shows. Casuals aren't coming back anymore. They're gone. What you're seeing is it's what's left. If you start plucking away at what's left, BC, your true feelings on Unreal. They're exposing the magic to a point where it shouldn't be. They're taking Beyond the Mat, what we had back in the day, and they're just like, it's a television series now. It's a streaming series. I'm hearing there's going to be a season 2. This is the new thing in pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is just not what it once was. It needs to get back on track, but instead, we're going to bring you the behind the scenes of it all. We're going to pull back the curtain, and we're going to expose all the tricks. We're going to show you how the sausage is made. They're probably thinking, what do we got to lose? I say it all the time. TKO, they're going to sell within 2 years, probably the Saudi. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, whether they sell or not, is going to cash out within 2 years. He's not going to do this more than 2 years. Helmsley's done. He knows that. So they don't care. They're going to get all their names in the credits and star on all these shows and get all their money now. TKO is pimping out the ring and everything around it. There's more. There's advertisements on top of advertisements. There's advertisements on the tables now, on the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's going to be advertisements on the wrestlers. They're going to come out like NASCAR drivers. It's so off track. And their solution is this bullshit show that's going to just expose everything. Oh, it's going to be entertaining, all right. There's no question about that. BC is going to be able to rip Hunter Hearst Helmsley a new one. This is going to be great. He's going to show you his creative on full display. Even though it's a facade and he can make it seem like he's so genius, he's still going to show you what a dumb fuck he is. That is our prolonged conversation on WWE Unreal. In case you guys were wondering, my thoughts on it. A detriment and the demise if they're not careful. AEW Dynamite coming off of All In. Were they able to carry that momentum and really deliver a Dynamite show? Or did it leave fans desiring more? Let's talk about it. So Schiavone welcomes Hangman Adam Page to the ring for an in-ring promo. Hangman just takes the mic. I got this, Tony. Tony's like, you got it, sir. Congratulations. Cowboy shit chant from the crowd, followed by a you deserve it chant. Page then says, if that's the chant, then you all missed the point. All of this was because you all deserve it. This was all because of you. This was all for you. Crowd then chants, we deserve it. I always think that's funny. He says, you guys deserve to see this title. You have somebody hold this title who has more gratitude for all of you than you will ever know. He's nearly in tears as he delivers this promo, as he is simultaneously limping around the ring selling his all-in match with Mox. That's always good to see when a wrestler, even though it's a day, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, a full week later, they still sell it. He runs down a list of thank yous, which includes Cope, Danielson, and even Swerve. Yes, that's right. He thanked Swerve. Imagine that. You talk full circle. And then he ends his near 10-minute promo by saying, look at me. I'm the heavyweight champion of the whole fucking world. And he did drop an F-bomb too. They muted it. They cut that out, but he did drop that. Got a nice response. An emotional Hangman, a fired up Hangman, a focused Hangman, a world champion Hangman. Successful promo, I feel. I mean, this is all you really needed to do if you're Tony Khan, right? Everybody wants to see and hear your champion. And at the end of the night, you would actually get to see him wrestle too. So if you bought a ticket and you want to see Hangman wrestle, well, you got to see that too. In a matchup which doesn't compromise his title. And because he did have such a wild match at All In, you could protect him too because there's 5 other dudes in that match. It was a six-man tag. So I have no problem with this. As I said in the cold open teaser, I know a lot of fans are not happy with the show because they feel it didn't carry the momentum that it needed to. This was their time to capitalize on such a successful event like All In. You got to put together one of the best shows you've ever delivered. And they feel like it was not such. And I'll tell you from the jump, it was not. Absolutely. This was not one of their best Dynamites. But for this segment, that's all you could add. I mean, that was it was emotional, just passionate, from a fired up, focused Hangman Adam Page, man. And you could like, when he says, I have such gratitude, he literally is like showing it, like you believe it because it is literally, it's believable because you're seeing it. Again, you had to kind of catch this type of promo to really understand the words. It was very well done. I feel it was all that was needed. You don't want to do too much yet either. At the end of the night, I feel you could have done more with that, especially if you're going to have them in a match. You could set something up pretty cool, bigger cliffhanger than just Darby appearing. I understand that. But this promo, this promo was good. The best part of the night for BC was a simplistic segment off the parking lot. And it was the Young Bucks showing up to the arena, not in their limo that was destroyed, what was it, last week? By Swerve. Just demolishing the limo. How are we going to financially recover from this? One of the best lines in pro wrestling, man. So now the Young Bucks are arriving to the arena in a Uber. They're in an Uber. Just picture that. The Bucks, they're trying to hide themselves because there's a camera on them. Like, really, man? They can't get the trunk open. They're yelling at the Uber driver, open the trunk. I would have lost my shit if they started shouting, "You're getting 1 star. You hear me? You're getting 1 star." Pop the trunk or I'm giving you 1 star. I was waiting for that, man. You guys ever see the movie with Batista? I think it's called Stuber. And Batista is involved in a bunch of shit and he has to drag an Uber driver into it. This just nerdy little dude who's just trying to earn a few extra bucks and some stars. In the whole movie, this guy is just like the Uber driver. Even though Batista is taking him on a wild, chaotic adventure, this Uber driver just wants 5 stars. But, man, I just love that shit. Was it Trent Beretta that used to get dropped off by his mom? What was her name? Sue? If I got the name wrong, my bad. But I used to love it. It was like a soccer mom van. And it would pull up right on the stage, right to the ramp. Soccer mom van. I think it was Trent Beretta and his whole best friends. They would all just jump out and they'd be like, "Bye, Ma." And I'll call her Sue. Sue was like, "Bye, guys, have fun." She'd drive off. Come on. Dude's getting dropped off to his wrestling match in his mom's soccer van. Am I the only one that really gets... Why do I find that so amusing? I just do. I just love that, man. Young Bucks are showing up in an Uber after they were riding around in limousines. Oh, how far the mighty have fallen. It's like broke Baron Corbin, right? I feel that was the best version of Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin had 100 characters. 100 characters, man. The wrestling god, Happy Corbin, Lone Wolf Corbin, Constable Corbin, King Corbin. So many, but broke Corbin resonated the most because you could do so much creatively with it. Anyway, yeah, that was the best part of Dynamite for me, just watching the Bucks. And then later they're showing up to their dressing room and the guys like Xing off EVPs and they're just writing Matt and Nick. And they're like, "Hey man, come on." And then afterwards they had a matchup. We'll get to it. And they took away their pyro and all their graphics and AEW just screwing with the Young Bucks. I think that was just some of the best part of the night for BC. So I had to mention that. Matchup wise, we go into I think this was like the first match of the night. Kyle Fletcher defeated Mascara Dorada via Brain Buster pinfall. I didn't put in the notes exact. I think it was like the Brain Buster. Anyway, nothing really to talk about there. That was a straight up matchup. Maybe 10 minutes. And then we had such a good backstage promo with Hurt Syndicate. MVP cutting a passionate, amplified promo. Hands it off basically to MJF, who cuts a passionate, amplified promo. They were yelling and I love that energy. You felt the passion. Old school wrestling promos. I always say, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Warrior Savage. It wouldn't matter. They were yelling. Unless you were The Undertaker, but he always had Paul Bear yelling back in the name. Paul Bear yelled. That's what he did. Paul Bear wasn't, he was yelling. Brother Love, wouldn't matter. You yelled. It was so much energy, you know? And I understand times have changed, but every wrestler these days, their promos are just talking. If you guys look, think about it. Next time you're watching a Raw, SmackDown, or most shows, listen to the promo. They're talking. They're just talking, right? Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you something, brother. Let me tell you, Byron. This is the deal. You know, Damian Priest is having a heart-to-heart with Aleister Black. Well, this is the thing, Renee. No, this was just, and they didn't have somebody. They didn't even need somebody. I don't even think somebody was interviewed. This was just Hurt Syndicate in the shot, and they were just kind of. I think it was just MVP and MJF that were speaking. But they were just like passionate, man. And you felt like you were into it. You cared about it. I just missed that. The energy that MVP and MJF showed. Thank you. It was something. It's simplistic. That's all they were doing. It's a backstage promo. Done. I think it was actually cut maybe at All In, maybe after. I don't know. worth mentioning because it was one of the best parts of this. Sometimes it's the little things, man. If done correctly, those are the most memorable parts of the show. Hour 1 ended with the aforementioned Young Bucks and the Callis family defeating Bandito, Brody. Why did I not put that? I don't know why I didn't put it in the notes. Bandito, Brody, and I think Jet Speed. Because it was an 8-man tag. And you guys know this is not my cup of coffee. So did I check out several times during this? Absolutely, I did. Fans in attendance liked it, as they usually do. You get to see the flips, the dives. There's all this action. Everybody's a ping pong ball. I get that. But I'm just not a fan of 8-man tags. I don't even care if it's like a Survivor Series or War Games. You have to really sell me on why I should care. And again, nor could I even keep up with these dudes. I mean, they're just doing it's tornado. It's not even like a tag. It's tornado. Everybody's in there at once. They're all doing shit, and I just get confused. It's too much. It's way too much. And Bandito passed out in this match. I think that's with like a choke or like a sleeper, and Bandito couldn't answer the ref. So that was the end of hour 1. 8-man tag. Yeah, so first hour, the most memorable things, and probably the whole show, some backstage segments, Young Bucks in the limo, and just that whole story that they were telling, like going from here to here. And their locker room being fucked with, and their entrance is being screwed with. Hurt Syndicate. Like, that was the big moments. For me, Kyle Fletcher defeating Dorado and an 8-man tag. Not my cup of coffee. Now, hour number 2, could they pick that up? Let's talk about it after a switch. So, Cope would start hour 2, of course, formerly known as Edge, Adam Copeland, now Cope. He returned at All In. Did he help out Christian Cage? Was that his whole intention? He would explain in this promo, again, to start hour number 2. And he basically, first and foremost, he said his intention was not to help out. He did not go there to help out Christian Cage. That's first and foremost. But then he recapped his whole AEW history with Christian Cage. And I mean, he went detail for detail. So it took a couple of minutes. But then he says that he came back to end FTR is what he did. So Christian just kind of was in the middle of that. But it's FTR that he came back to end. And Stokely Hathaway would come to the ring, and he informs Cope that if he does anything to FTR, even try to shake their hands, he will be fired. So he's got this Stokely, a bunch of complaints were sent in, and this is from Tony Khan, I guess. He'll be fired if he does anything to FTR, even try to shake their hands. So Cope says, well, you didn't say a word about you. You said if I lay my hands on FTR, you didn't say anything about you. So the crowd starts chanting, you fucked up, you fucked up. And of course, Stoke eats a spear. So I thought that was pretty well done. You have the little action there with Stokely Hathaway getting his piece out, but then getting speared by your face for the good pop. But you also have the evolution of whatever story they're trying to tell here. Cope cannot lay his hands on FTR, but you know that's where you're going to have to end this up. Christian Cage and Cope will have to. That's the match. Or is it? But how do you get to it if the guy can't even lay it? So it's the start, right? Seeds planted to something, and I got to feel. What's cool is that unlike WWE, where you always feel like they have nothing, right? They do something, and Helmsley has told you several times that he doesn't know if he's going to stick with it. That's why he gives you 10 things, and then he picks one. That's not that's wasting time. Just come up with a plan for it, and just give us something entertaining that's worth it. That's it. With AEW, I will give them props because I feel like there is a direction, and they start and then they go to it. So just like the top of hour 1 with Hangman and a really good promo, I thought this was pretty good and it served many purposes. The next matchup would be Queen Aminata, Statlander, Willow, and Tekla. Fatal 4-way for $100,000. I don't think there was a title opportunity on the line here, or you could get to a championship match if you win this. So I actually respect that. If you're just going to do a fatal 4-way, don't do the stereotypical, if you win this, you get a title. put $100,000 on the line. For some reason, that was more meaningful to BC than a title opportunity in the future. If you're wondering, it was the Toxic Spider that won that $100,000. Sky Blue and Julia Hart assisted a Toxic Spider victory. Blue distracted the ref. Julia spits the mist in Queen's eyes. And that's a wrap. The mist to the eyes, and then Toxic Spider does the rest. Tekla wins $100,000. Blue and Julia better be getting a cut of that, right? Throw them like 5 G's a piece after taxes. If that's taxed, they'll probably be getting 70, 75,000. But you could still throw 5,000 a piece to Julia and Blue. I don't know what this was all about. I really don't. I mean, you go through a really good... I don't know. This is why I could see why a lot of fans would be upset. AEW fans. Like, this was our chance to really get back on track, man, after All In. It's like, I believe this was the first women's segment of the night, was in the middle of hour 2. And it was a weird fatal... I don't know, man. Yeah, Amanada, Statlander, Willow, and Tekla for $100,000. Again, the $100,000 to me was worth more than a future title shot because I'm so sick of a match getting us to another match. If you win this, you get a title match. It's that easy these days. If you lose it, don't worry. You'll have 80,000 more chances this month to win one match to get you to a title match. But it was just weird. I don't know. Just very odd. And then the second and only other women's segment would come immediately following. Toni Storm promo in the balcony of this venue. And Toni Storm is just amazing. Like, Toni Storm has become a character where even if you're flipping through, you kind of either put the remote down or you find yourself, even if it's subconsciously, lowering your hand with the remote because you're going to listen to this. That's how good the character is in Toni Storm. So Toni Storm cuts this promo from up in the balcony. And she said one of the best lines, man. My tits are pointed to the future. In other words, I am past Monet. My tits are pointed to the future. I mean, again, if you don't spit the coffee out on that line, man. But she says, but Mercedes, this buffet is always open. She said, Mercedes, this buffet will always be open. She is wild. Ember Moon, Athena. A lot of you guys I know her as Ember Moon still, but she is Athena just because you probably haven't seen her because... she just really got prominent on the AEW main roster finally with Dustin Rhodes. But Ember Moon is on the Tron and she claps back and she signs her new contract that she won during that casino gauntlet at All In, which was so cool. Just like when I saw Dustin win that TNT championship. But it was cool to see Athena pop up on that Tron and on AEW television. And I was like, damn, man, like this is what's been missing. And she cut a really good promo. Like, there was like conviction. There was no fumbling. There was a new self-esteem that you just did not see in WWE. And I know she's been really gathering that in ROH. And so maybe in a lot of ways, ROH helped her so much. But yeah, I mean, she was good, and she like went from highs to lows in it too, right? So even with like, who was it, Billy behind her, and she would look at her and then come back with like more amplification, and it was a really good promo. It was probably, do I say her best? I think so, even with her WWE work. I mean, that was really good. Even Toni Storm was up in the balcony like, and she signed her name. Athena signed her name on the contract. So it looks like she knows the date because she ran down several dates, but then she's like, I know which day. And then she signed. So I don't know. There's more to be discovered on that. But that was the only other women's segment. Toni Storm with some good lines and getting to see Athena really start to really coming to her own on the main roster of AEW. I can't really say main roster. It's like a totally different brand. And then Okada with a quick W. Post-match. I don't know who he was in there. Guys, I literally blinked. I had a sip of coffee. The bell rang. I'm like, didn't they already ring the bell to start this match? Yes, they did. That was the bell to end the match. It was that quick. And Okada wins this quick match. Post-match, calls Swerve a bitch. Swerve comes out, calls Okada a bitch, and we go to commercial. I was like, all right. That's why there was the weird stuff. You know what I mean? I don't really get the $100,000 stuff. I don't get all the multi-person schmazes. It's just an easy way to book, I guess. Maybe Tony Khan's exhausted. Let's put a bunch of people out there. But, the Okada bitch, Swerve comes out, decked to the nines, one of his best outfits he could possibly drag out of the closet, just to call Okada a bitch, and that's that. Main event, Hangman, Powerhouse, and Briscoe defeat Mox, Claudio, and Wheeler of the Riders. Page pins Claudio off the jackknife roll-up. Darby appears post-match because the heels would attack the faces, but Darby would... I guess Darby just being up in the balcony caused enough of a distraction for the faces to clear the ring of the heels. So you got to end the night with a feel-good moment of the faces celebrating Hangman, Powerhouse, Briscoe, while Darby is in the balcony, kind of lingering, looking on like Shinsuke would be backstage listening to people cut promos. Show goes off the air. Listen, BC's, as always, honest to an amplified measure. This was a decent show. And again, I can just start throwing things at you on why I say that. The Hangman promo. Wow, the passion, the emotion, and it's really all you needed. I'm glad they didn't overstep it. The Cope promo not just sets the table for the FTR, whatever they got planned for that, but you also saw Stokely get taken out, so it's a little pop as well. So didn't mind that at all. The backstage stuff with Hurt Syndicate, what a promo. And then it's the fun stuff with the Young Bucks, man. For the second week in a row, just spit out coffee. It's that funny. The Toni Storm and Athena back and forth, I actually could have went with that a few more minutes. I was actually really into that. So decent. And the wrestling matches were just packed with action. That's never been a problem of AEW. I just don't care about any of the matches last night. And that was a problem for BC. I didn't care about the $100,000 Fatal 4-Way women's match. I didn't care about the 8-man tag match. I didn't care about the 6-man main event. I didn't care about Okada. And again, I'm not even kidding. I didn't even see who he was in there with. I blinked, got a sip of coffee. The match was over. And Swerve was coming out. So I didn't care about that match. I didn't care about Kyle Fletcher in his singles match for 8 or 9 minutes. I didn't care about any of it. And I think that's what a lot of fans probably are also probably thinking is you have such an impactful event that beat everything that WWE tried to throw at you. And you came out on top and you actually have people excited for Dynamite and like, man, if you can capitalize on this momentum, this is going to be huge. And I feel a lot of people walked away going, damn, that was it. And this is BC's calling this a decent show. And I could totally see why people are saying that. And again, the reports I saw before I even started recording, a lot of fans are not calling this a decent show. A lot of fans are saying this was not a good show. This is a bad show. Some people are saying it sucked. I didn't see that, but I totally understand the frustration. This was a missed opportunity by Tony Khan for sure. But yeah, and you really can't do that. You can't afford that right now because they're stuck in the 600,000-ish range for viewership. Even if you add Max in, the 40 to 60, you're still stuck in the 600-ishes. Now, can this post-show of All In bring them over to 7? Was there enough viewers that came in because of that momentum? That remains to be seen. But then the problem is, are they going to stick around? Was this show good enough for viewers that are checking out AEW again? Is this show last night for Dynamite, was it good enough to keep them coming back? I don't know about that, man. And that's your amplified, amped up for Thursday, the 17th of July, 2025. Until next time, and there will be that next time 44 dive, that is a wrap. BC in the unit, we're saying check you. Unit, salute.